get myself into this.
Hello. So I tragically did lose everything, every clip from my last vlog, but it's fine because I think by now you're gonna have seen the wrap up because I'm gonna do something a little different this month. Going back to the reading vlogs. Hello, how are you? So it is currently the 3rd of July and I finished yesterday night at like 2 a.m. I finished Library of Souls, my first book of the month. Honestly, I really enjoyed this. I thought it was really interesting. The plot was really interesting. I did have some issues with the pacing of this book. It was really slow. I honestly don't know how I read this when I was 16. Not that my English was bad, but it was obviously like worse than how it is now 10 years later. But this book in Ransom Riggs, he has a very particular writing style. He's very like, I thought this was middle grade and it's not apparently because the language is very articulated. My other issue with this was I was kind of confused with the timelines of everything, like the time loops present, and also how does it make sense that we're on the 3rd book of the series and it's still been a few months from the beginning of book 1. I don't get that, and I'm sure it has an explanation. I just haven't grasped it because this universe is all about like time loops and time traveling and everything. What I love about this series is how it all came up, like Ransom Riggs just finding vintage photos and just like tying them together through a story. I think that is incredible thinking and so creative. I love it. So other than that, I really enjoyed this. The characters were awesome as always, even though I do have a little bit of an issue with the whole Emma thing. Basically, Emma, the female main character, and the love interest for the male main character, she has dated his granddad because of course she lives in a time loop, so she doesn't age and everything, so that's a little weird, honestly. But other than that, this was great. It really did feel like a conclusion to the series. In fact, I knew that this, I mean, from what I remember, this was supposed to be the ending of a trilogy, and then Ransom Riggs decided to make it like a 6-book series, which is crazy. But this did feel like a conclusion. As a matter of fact, I was thinking of just like ending it with this, just not continuing on with the series because this was good enough for me. It was a really nice book. A little too long in my opinion. I think a lot of parts could have been cut out. That's why I gave this 3.5 stars. But I guess it was just the slow pacing and like the really long chapters that made it feel like it was too long. So I wanted to finish up with this, but then I just heard that Map of Days, which is book 4, is the best one out of the, like, it's better than the previous ones. So I am contemplating getting it. It is not available anywhere except for a really crazy price, so it's gonna have to wait. For now, this was it. I was feeling like I needed some paperback, honestly, and that is the only one I have. I mean, I was feeling like reading Game of Thrones for the longest time, but I'm probably gonna regret it. I don't know, but maybe I'm gonna start this today.
Hello, so little update. I am almost in the middle of a Game of Thrones. I remembered, because I was gonna say that I found out, but I didn't. I knew this. I remembered that the Italian version that I'm reading is basically the first half of the first book. It was divided in 2 books. Every book in the series was divided in 2 books. So, I mean, that's kind of disappointing because will it mean that I finished the first book? Or like, it's just gonna make the series so much longer. It's gonna be like 12 books in total for now, because I wanna remind everybody that A Game of Thrones is not a completed series. Another 2 books are coming out. Nobody knows when. Not even fucking George R.R. Martin knows. So that is fun. This will still count as a whole book read in this month, of course. But I'm not gonna be very far into the series, which is crazy because I have realized that I'm starting series. Like, just every time, I'm starting a new series every fucking day at this point, and I'm never gonna complete the ones that I already have open or like pending. But at the same time, I have looked through the ones that I have pending, and I honestly don't feel like reading any of those right now. It's not that I want to like stop them, because I still have a little bit of interest, but not right now, just not right now. So I'm gonna start new series and get myself in trouble, I guess. What I want to say about A Game of Thrones is that I'm really enjoying it. I've seen the whole show, by the way, and so this, like, very little is new to me, but I've watched it so many years ago that some things are feeling like new stuff, new information, and I'm really enjoying it. I love the relationship between Arya and Jon Snow. I am very much enjoying Tyrion, of course. I am very excited to see more of Sansa, because she is my favorite character in the show, and of course her character develops in such a way that you hate her at first and then you start loving her. So I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited to meet Marjorie, because she's also one of my favorite characters. This feels amazing. I am very much enjoying this, even though it's really going really slow. I feel like I read for ages and then I write like not even fucking 10 pages. It's crazy, but still, we are gonna push through it. Okay, I'm gonna give you a little update on my read, which is the first in the Game of Thrones series. I am currently around 70% of the book. I'm really enjoying this. I was not expecting to just look forward to reading this so much every day. At first, it was very slow paced, and honestly, I truly think that if I hadn't watched the show, I would have given up on this already, because there's so many characters, there's so many lands, there's so many names for everything. In total honesty, I think I would have dropped this already if I hadn't watched the show, just because there's so many names of people and lands, weapons and families. It's just so complicated, and there is a portion of like the end of the book in which everything is stored, everything is explained. I wouldn't want that to be my reading experience, just constantly going back and forth to check who's who, and like, you know, I am really glad I watched the show. That does not take anything away from my reading experience. I am loving this as if it was the first time. I am loving this so much. I almost cried 3 times, just out of pure, like, just, I love this character so much. I love seeing Jon and Arya's relationship. I love seeing Sam Tarly. This is amazing. I'm having the time of my life. Hello, I finished it. It is 7th of July and I finished A Game of Thrones. I mean, this is like the first half of book 1, which is called A Game of Thrones. And this was just incredible. I loved everything about this. At first, again, it was very slow, but as you start catching up, it just gets better and better. I couldn't put this down, literally. I read, I think, about 100 pages yesterday, which is just like, I mean, I have the time now because I'm done with my exams, but honestly, I would never have thought to read so much in a day for a historical fiction or a high fantasy or an epic fantasy. I don't like those things, but this was just fucking incredible. So I think I'm gonna take a small break and read something lighter in between, but as soon as I finish my next read, I'm gonna jump into the next part of the first book in the Game of Thrones, so that I can feel the hole that I feel in my chest right now. I started Hush Hush by Becca Fitzpatrick. This is a 2009 book, and it shows. This is obviously about angels. It says, a fallen angel, a forbidden love. That's all I know about this book. When I say that it shows that this was written a long time ago, it means that it's cringy. It has all the cliches you could possibly imagine, but I understand it because this is the original cliche. That's like the books that were written in that era were the originals. Those started it all, okay? So I gotta just, get my mind in that mindset, I guess, and try to enjoy this as much as I can. Honestly,
I just started literally like, ugh, like chapter 3. So that's all I can say. Okay, first of all, in the prologue, there's this scene in which there's like this man walking by the river in 1534 or something like that in France, and he sees this angel that looks exactly like this. So like naked torso, barefoot, and incredibly handsome. And I was like, is this MLM? I was intrigued. Then we switch to chapter 1, and it is this girl that is forced to be partnered up with this mean boy. And I'm like, oh God, oh Lord, here we go. The bad boy trope started from here. The forced proximity started from here. The enemies to lovers started from here. Like, you can just sense it, okay? You can just sense it. I thought this was gonna be a little revolutionary, you know, like, oh, like a forbidden love because the two main characters are both men and whatever. This is what I wished for. I guess I was projecting. That's it. No, because this is fucking funny as fuck. Like, okay, first of all, they are put together. He refuses to help with the homework or whatever the fuck. And so she calls him because he leaves his number like written on her. Like just printed on her hand. And so she calls him. She calls him, and he's like, oh, I'm too busy with my pool game right now, so bye. And he hangs up the fucking phone. He's like, I need to go to him because he won't listen. Okay, which is fair. I mean, sure, whatever. It's 2009, so they don't have like text messages and whatever. So what she does is she goes to him and she goes and grabs a map to find the place. A map. No, because like this broke me. This nearly broke me. The map. Also, like, it's just kind of like really forced and unrealistic. Sometimes, of course, I'm reading fantasy, but I'm not saying that. I'm talking about like the classes they're on. So like they're paired in like a biology class or like science class. So the first lesson they attend together is about sex, right? Fair. It's biology, sure. And so they get paired because like, oh, nature is all about like knowing the other of your kind and whatever. Sure. She is currently zoned out in class, and you know those like very common scenes in which like the character is zoned out and the professor asks something but she didn't hear the question, so she goes like, can you repeat the question again? I kid you not, the professor goes, Coach said with slight irritation, what qualities are you attracted to in a potential mate? I'm not kidding. Like, I wish I could make this up, honestly. Potential mate? She replies. And she's like, you want me to list characteristic of a... And he goes, potential mate? Yes, that would be helpful. Why would a professor want to know this? Okay, science, okay, biology, okay, mating and whatever. But why would you put a student in this situation? Like, are we crazy? Are we out of our mind? And the professor is like, because the main character didn't want to answer, so she goes, oh, can you ask somebody else? And of course he asks the male character, and he's like describing, of course, like he's not hesitant at all. He knows what he wants, right? So the coach goes, how do you let her know you're interested? And he goes, single her out, talk to her. Coach, good. Now for the big question. How do you know if she's game or if she wants you to move on? If she's game, hello? How old is this guy? He goes, get ready. Hold your seat. He goes, I study her, Pash said. I figure out what she's thinking and feeling. She's not gonna come out right out and tell me, which is why I have to pay attention. Does she turn her body toward mine? Does she hold my eye? Does she hold my eyes, then look away? Does she bite her lip and play with her hair the way Nora is doing right now? Nora is the main character. And this is in front of everybody. The whole class. What? What? Good morning. I am cooking some pasta for lunch and reading Hush Hush at the same time. What is this book even about? Like, I need to tell you guys a little bit of what's happening here. So like there's the comic relief character that is the basically like the fat friend of the female main character that's supposed to be a comedic relief, so like a funny character, but to me she's coming off as annoying as fuck. Anyways, that's not the point. The point is that they are trying to get into the office of the school to find out more information about the MMC, and V, who is the best friend, she has the job of finding a distraction to have the secretary leave the office so they can check the file and everything. She calls in a bomb threat at the school. And they don't even find anything about the MMC. Of course, because it's mysterious and everything. So we are also being introduced the other part of the love triangle, because of course this came out in 2009. Of course there's gonna be a love triangle. And it's just like crazy. I just read what's happening and just look at the sky for like some kind of divine intervention that helps me get through this. Also, why does this girl have conversation about sex with everybody? Like, she's talking about like sex and being sexy with her maid, like her housemaid. Are we losing the plot here? Okay, so we are kind of being fed a mystery kind of subplot. I don't know if it's properly a mystery, but like, so there have been some attacks by this figure, because we don't know who that is, what gender they are. They're human technically, but we don't know the identity of them, so I guess it's kind of a mystery. And I am almost sure that it's gonna go into, because like the book is pointing us towards suspicions about one of the characters that we know. And honestly, I just thought that it would be so much better, so much more interesting if it actually was an entity. Because like, this is a fantasy world in which like there's angels, okay? Angels fallen from heaven and like whatever. So it would be really fun if the evil part, these attacks, were actually like some evil entity trying to like get in the way or something. I don't know, it would be really, really fun. So I'm hoping this goes into that direction. I finished it. I finished Hush Hush by Becca Fitzpatrick. This was a 2.5 for me, just solely because I really did enjoy the ending part, like the last part in which you kind of get into the lore. And this is so funny to me. A book cannot start getting interesting and actually talking about what the book is about on page 300 when the book is 391 pages. That is not how things should go. I was really, really mad about this because the story that we got to hear in the last bit was actually very interesting. Like, the lore sounds very intricate and very interesting. Okay, I wanted more of this, and that's why I'm kind of debating on reading Crescendo, which is the second book, but I don't know. I really don't know. Also because I don't like this edition at all. I wanted the matte one and I got the shiny one. I don't want this shit. Anyways, the characters were very, very, very unlovable. I could not like any of them, especially the best friend, V. I think the author wanted us to love her and like to find her funny, but she was everything but funny and everything but likable. I really, really disliked her. I wanted her dead. There was a bit in which I really wished she was. This book also deals with fat phobia and eating disorders. I mean, it doesn't exactly, but if you are very sensitive about these topics, you should not read this, because this was written in 2009, in which words of a certain weight that, you know, we know now were used freely and were used to insult and were used, you know, like talking about diets and talking about like, oh, you shouldn't eat this because yada yada yada. Other than that, this book was cringe. This book was the cliches of the cliche. But again, I think this was where the cliche started. Like, this was the origin story. Also, I really think that this is where romantasy started, honestly, because this was a fantasy, but it was just a romance set in a fantasy world. It was not fantasy. I did not get to see the fantasy aspects of it until the last 90 pages of the book. So honestly, I'm not into that. I don't care about the love story, especially if it's written this poorly. I really did not like anybody in this. I also did end up reading a graphic novel yesterday night. It is called Fans Challengers. This is the first volume, long shot. This is basically an LGBTQ fencing story, like sportsy. I really am not familiar with the game. I just thought, why not? I saw it on Amazon, and the reviews on Goodreads were pretty high, so I thought, yeah, why not? It was pleasant. I enjoyed it for the very bit that it was. The first volume was about 42 pages, and I really loved the design. The design is very diverse. It's very, like, it's just, I really loved the drawings of it. Character design was incredible. But something that I thought was funny is that the character design is incredible except for the main character. The main character is the most basic looking Asian guy ever, okay? Like, he just has nothing exciting to him, nothing particular to him. This is what I thought of the first bit. So I'll let you know if I continue on. I think there's about like 4 or 5.
So I started The Great Winter. This is the second part of book 1 in A Game of Thrones. And again, like the last book, this is very slow at the beginning. It shouldn't be, I guess, because it's kind of the middle of the book. You know what I mean? Because it's the second part, so the beginning is the middle. Anyways, what I want to say is that I am so passionate about the characters, and like the show, I don't think I would have liked the story so much if it wasn't for the characters. I think this is very character driven, to be honest, because the plot is all over the place. It's just like, not in a bad way, but it's just so many things and just so little things at the same time. You know what I mean? Yeah, you know what I mean. I'm not that far into it. I'm around page 100 out of 400, I think. So I'm like 1/4 in. And honestly, knowing what I know, I just can't wait for like everything to happen. But I'm also so scared for everything to happen. This is so ambivalent. Like, the whole thing is ambivalent. But like, I'm reading Sansa's point of view right now, and she's so naive and just only talks about boys and how every knight that she sees is handsome, or like one day there's gonna be like, he's gonna be a knight, and who will I marry, and all of that. And it's just gonna be like so different in a couple of books. She's not gonna have the time to think about boys. And it's just, oh my god, guys, I could die right now. So I did finish The Great Winter. This is kind of like the second half of the first Game of Thrones book. I mean, in the Song of Ice and Fire series by George R.R. Martin. I love this so much. I gave this 4.75. I'm waiting to cry to put 5 stars on one of these books, because I know there's a slight chance that I might. So I'm just like holding on to my 5-star rating for that one. This was incredible. I just love the world building and the characters. I am not an epic fantasy guy, but this has me on a hook. I don't know what it is. I think it really is the characters, because I'm just so attached to all of them. I am so excited for what's to come. Sansa is having her fucking like change arc happening, and Daenerys is, and Jon and Caitlyn and everybody. I'm just so very excited
to go on with this, and I kind of don't want to read anything else. So it's a struggle. What I did start reading though is Tomorrow When the War Began. This was the book that inspired one of my favorite movies as a child. I don't know what it was, to be honest, that made me fall in love with it. And I'm just not that far into it. I'm like 12% in it. And right now it's not anything particular, anything special.
Okay, hi. So I did start a book. I started Tomorrow When the War Began by John Marsden, I think. I'm not sure. I am around like 40%. As I told you, I watched the movie like a really long time ago and I loved it. I loved the premise for it. So I wanted to give the book a chance. I just found out it's a 7-book series, by the way. But they're relatively short books. I mean, the first one is 250 pages. It's really short, actually. So what the book is about is this girl, Ellie. She gathers up like 6 of her friends or like people that she knows because she wants to go out camping in this place that they call the Hell. And it's like this really far away place hidden in the forest. And they just, like they just want to go out camping and they have to gather up a big group because it's dangerous and their parents would feel more, like safe if they're more. So they go out camping away from the city, and in the meantime, the city gets raided and invaded by a foreign country or like a foreign army, and they know nothing until they get to the city and they found the whole city completely like empty. Like they go into their houses, pets are dead because they're not getting fed, houses are empty, power's out, the landline is off. So like they don't know what's happening at the beginning, and they later find out that everybody who went to this city fair that they had was being held captive. Is that English? So this is basically the premise of the book, of the series, I think. So I'm really excited to go and find out because I really forgot everything that happens. Start was a bit slow, a bit like written poorly, in my opinion. Not written poorly, just like weird, very weird. But it's getting somewhere. It is. So it is 9 days later. I don't know why a 250-page book took me so long. I did have some guests for a week in my house. My boyfriend and my friend came to visit a bit. It was lovely. So I didn't really read much. But other than that, I think that the pacing of Tomorrow When the War Began by John Marsden was kind of not for me. I was kind of disappointed in this book a little bit, and I was sad that I didn't like it, since I was really attached to the movie when I was a kid. I mean, really attached. I really, really loved it. Plus, I did find out that the author died last year. So it kind of made me feel like crap that I was not enjoying the book. I think the pacing was slow because it was very repetitive and the characters did not really connect with me. I think it was an interesting choice in the negative spectrum to tell the story through some kind of diary. Basically, Ellie, the protagonist, she starts the book by saying that she thinks it's best if they document what they're living, which is fair. But, if you're documenting what you're going through at a time like this, so like war, I don't know how much of the details that she put, I would have put, Like the details about, feelings for other people or like internal thoughts and situations that me personally, I would have left out. Because first of all, how do you remember all of that? Because she is talking about the past. She is writing this after a while, and it is unrealistic, which I know that it's a fictional book and everything, but it would be unrealistic that you remember all of these details. I just think some things should have been left out if it was realistic, or just like don't tell the story like this. So I gave this book 3.25 stars, especially because the pacing did pick up in the very like last bit, so like the last 20 pages, because I was reading it on my phone, which was brutal. I hated it. I think that's also what slowed me down a lot. So the last 20 pages were okay. Because like they were plotting something, and so I read all that, and I thought that's where the book was going to finish, but it wasn't, because I did read the plot twist that I was not expecting at all. I don't know if they did this in the movie. I think I'm going to rewatch the movie now just for nostalgia, and also to see what they missed and what they didn't. Because thinking back, I do think that the movie was better than the book, and I really didn't think, even though the book was really short, I think that maybe half of the things that the author included in this should have just been deleted, and maybe add together the first and second book, since it is a 7-book series. Just like make them longer by adding them together, and like, I don't know if you're understanding what I mean. What I mean is that there was a lot that shouldn't have been in this book, and maybe it would have been longer if he just like put the first 2 books together. It would have been more interesting, I think. Also, the last 20 pages did make me change my mind about wanting to read the rest of the series. I was not going to, because honestly, I was not really enjoying it. The premise is really good. I just didn't like the execution that much. But the ending kind of did make me feel like wanting more, maybe. And I do think that it would be very interesting if every book was from a different perspective, since they're like 8 characters and 7 books. So why not? Like, why not? For my next read, I think I'm gonna pick up Day 21 by Cass Morgan. This is the second book in the 100 series. I have read the first one so long ago because I was obsessed with the TV show, and the covers are fucking great. Like, I love them so much. And I'm also going to a small vacation tomorrow, so it would be nice to read a book, especially in physical form. I hated reading on my books so much. With this beautiful weather outside, I don't know if you can hear because there's quite a bit of wind. I finished Day 21. This was a very nice surprise. I finished it in 2 days, really. I didn't show much about this or like update you midway like I usually do, because I was on a trip, and that's why I finished it so early. I had a lot of time to read on the beach and everything, and this was a really pleasant surprise. I read the first one so many years ago, like most of the books I'm reading right now, and the author did a really great job at making me feel up to pace, like up to caught up, by slowly repeating what happened in the first book, which I thought was really, really helpful. I don't know if I would have been bothered if I read it back to back. Maybe I would have been a little bit, but this really helped me in my case. So I really can't talk much about this book because it is the second book in the series. But The 100, if you never heard of it, has this really cool concept in which for 300 years after a nuclear war, the human population started living in a sort of ark, like in the Bible, but up in the space. And after 300 years, since they're starting to run out of oxygen and supplies and everything, they decide to test if the earth is still livable. So what they do is send 100 of incarcerated teenagers that would have been executed on their 18th birthday otherwise. They send these criminals on earth to see if it actually is livable, and of course it is. And so we kind of follow 4 point of views. It is Clark, Bellamy, Wells, and Glass, which, by the way, awful name choice, Glass, and it's a female. I don't know, I was expecting at first for
Glass to be a male because I don't know, it sounds more male. Either way, it's a shit name. But we do follow both the perspective on Earth, on like 3 point of views, while Glass was able to escape last minute and stay on the Ark. So we also do have a perspective on what's happening on the ship, the colony up in space. So that's pretty much the premise of the first book. There's just a lot happening in this book. We meet a new character, Sasha, and I just thought that was amazing. I really loved her character, and I was expecting this to be very much centered about Mount Weather, because I do think that Mount Weather is the main plot line in season 2 of the show. But it is very, very different from the show. It has basically nothing of the show, just a premise and 3 characters. Everything else is different, which is great. It's great. I love the show, but if I have to read about something that I already know, I get bored, of course. Kind of. Game of Thrones is an exception. But I just really enjoyed this. Ate this up. I loved how it ended and the twist. So good. And everybody had secrets and we're going back and forth, past and present. And I really thought like that was cool. Like I didn't find it annoying or like frustrating. I just vibed through it. I think I'm gonna give this 4.25 stars. I am ordering the next book right away. I am not joking. I think I want to read this very, very fast because it is just such a fast-paced book. I loved it. It was great.
So again, so quick with an update because I have started and finished this book. I was going on a mental breakdown because I have nothing to do. I'm so bored. So I wanted to read a book. Though I have read almost entirely everything I own. One that I never even considered reading was this one, Hate, The House at the End of the Street. Yes, by Lily Blake. By Lily Blake, that's debatable. So the thing is, this was a very short book. It was a little less than 200 pages, and it's a horror. So this is inspired by a movie. Yes, you've heard me right. This book was inspired by a movie, not the way around. And this author apparently does that all the time. She wrote a book about I think Snow White and the Hunter, the one movie with Kristen Stewart. She also wrote a few books on Rain, like the Mary Stewart series that was on the CW. This is kind of weird to me, honestly, because it's kind of a weird behavior. I was gonna say that this book had a really nice premise and a nice story outline, but it was very poorly executed and just too short. Very, very rushed, and a lot of explained things should have been left unexplained. Like, not unexplained, but like, she gathered a lot of what was happening and she still had to explain it to us. I don't know. That was kind of shitty for me. I don't know. I think I'm gonna give this 2 stars because I was intrigued. I read this in one sitting. I hadn't done that in so long. And it kept me hooked. I'm not gonna lie to you. I wasn't when I was reading Hush Hush. Maybe 2 stars. I don't know. But I don't know what. Oof. But I don't know what the author does. It's kind of weird to me. I don't know.
July 31st, last day of the month, and I just finished the 8th book of this month. It's surreal. I don't think I've ever read this much in a month. So I just started and finished Carmilla. This is a classic book, and it was this month's pick for my book club, which I'm not attending the greeting of. That's why I kind of didn't want to, I didn't feel like reading the book. I didn't feel pushed to read the book. But, it was a pretty short book. I still had a couple of days of not having anything to read. So I said, why not? And I am really glad I did. I really enjoyed this. I gave this 3.75, which doesn't feel like a lot, but I really liked it. I really liked the book. Specific edition that I read was of two stories in one. One was about a doctor and the other one was actually Carmilla Carmilla is a story written in the 1800s, so this is the 19th century, and I don't really know how to explain, how to possibly summarize such a short story for you, so maybe go read the summary online. But it is a queer vampire novel. Yes. In the 19th century. This was way before Dracula by Bram Stoker, by the way. This was the beginning for vampires in literature, which is so cool to me, especially because of how it was described and how they worked, I guess. It's so fascinating. I really, really loved it. It was so mysterious. It was so just like catching. Like I really couldn't stop reading. And the story about the doctor too, like I thought it was really smart, really interesting. Again, kind of mysterious at that point too. Really cool. I loved it. Really. But the month is over, so I think we can wrap this up. This was a pretty long reading vlog, honestly. But that's a good thing because I read a lot. So I really can't wait for what's coming in August. See you then.